Everybody says they are, right? Everybody says they are customer focused. Your own companies that you work for, and your own people that you interact with. So 80% prove that they deliver a superior experience. They actually have an investment done there, or they've probably done a lot of work in the area of creating superior experiences and so on and so forth. So 80% actually prove that. But do people agree? That's the question. So this is what the companies are saying. What do you think? Do people agree when the same survey was done with people as well? Now, do you think that people agree that these companies are delivering a superior experience? What's your take on it? What do you think? Sorry? No? Not really. How many, what is the percentage of people that actually agree that they're delivering a superior experience? 50 to 60? Okay. Any other? 10 to 20? Sorry? 30%? Okay. I must say that this is an optimistic group. Really, really like that. Because actually, this is the number 8%. And a lot of this is kind of should be worrisome for us designers, because we claim that we are actually creating superior experiences, but this is what the customers are thinking, right? So there is this guy who explains this far better than me ever can. And if you have seen this, it's really nice on why people, what is the expectation of people today, and what is that we are actually catering to. So let's just quickly look at
back then, yeah. Those were simpler times, I think. I just feel like we may be going back to that, by the way. But in a way, good, because when I read things like the foundations of capitalism are shattering, I'm like, maybe we need that. Maybe we need some time where we're walking around with a donkey with pots clanging on the sides.
You think that would just bring us back to reality?
Yeah, because everything is amazing right now, and nobody's happy. Like, in my lifetime, the changes in the world have been incredible. When I was a kid, we had a rotary phone. We had a phone that you had to stand next to, and you had to dial it.
Yes.
You realize how primitive? You're making sparks in a phone, and you actually would hate people with zeros in their numbers because it was more like, oh, this guy's got 2 zeros. Screw that guy. Why do I want to? And then if they called and you weren't home, the phone would just ring lonely by itself. And then if you wanted money, you had to go in the bank for when it was open for like 3 hours. You had to stand in line, write yourself a check like an idiot. And then when you ran out of money, you just go, well, I can't do any more things now.
Right.
I can't do any more things.
That's it, yeah.
That was it. And even if you had a credit card, the guy would go, ugh, and he'd bring out this whole chunk, and he'd write, you have to call the president to see if you have any money. And
it's all true, kids. You had to call the president, yeah. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
Do you feel that we now, in the 21st century, we take technology for granted?
Well, yeah, because now we live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots that don't care, because this is what people are like now. They got their phone, and they're like, it won't. Give it a second. It's going to space. Can you give it a second to get back from space? Is the speed of light too slow for you? Yeah. I was on an airplane, and there was internet, high-speed internet on the airplane. That's the newest thing that I know exists. And I'm sitting on the plane, and they go, open up your laptop. You can go on the internet. And it's fast, and I'm watching YouTube clips. I'm in an airplane. And then it breaks down. And they apologize. The internet's not working. The guy next to me goes, this is bull. Like, how quickly the world owes him something he knew existed only 10 seconds ago.
Right.
So, you agree with that, right? So today's world is like that. So the expectations are really high, and again, a humorous take on it, but the fact is, that's the world that we are living in. So one of the things that we have attempted to do in our company is to think of products and everything that we do as services, and kind of look at us as service designers, and move our thinking up there. Now, there are some examples that help us think in this way, right? So when you had the experience of music through the iPod was not just product design, if you look at it. It was not just collection of songs that he gave us, right? He actually changed the world. When Steve Jobs, thought about it, he changed the world because you could access any music at any time, what you wanted, and of course, at your own convenience, your own device, and the device is a beautiful looking one as well. You can interact with it so easily. So he innovated at several levels. The kind of work that he did just to get the there was a monopoly, right, from the companies that owned this music, and those music producers were not ready to actually share, and they were sharing albums as opposed to songs. There was quite a bit of work that was done, so he created software, iTunes, and then, here we are in a completely new world. And because of the fact that he thought about experiences of the music. Now, Uber is another one that's going in the same direction. Again, I mean, you hear every day, you hear such great stories about Uber, and a small company that started off, and today it's the world's largest transport company that doesn't own a car. So again, completely different thinking, and now they've actually recently in the US also connected these Spotify accounts with your Uber. So your own cab at your own service and your own music, that you don't even have to drive that. So again, such a beautiful stuff that people are imagining out here. As James Nordstrom, so why everybody is doing that is because the customer and the people are at front and center of whatever that's happening today, and it's not like earlier when you had when you were okay with thinking about isolated moments, you were creating moments that were great, but today you have to create holistic experiences. There is this concept of the funnel that you have, right? So you move people in the marketing, you have this concept of move people through the funnel. So get them, first of all, aware of something, and then after awareness, you kind of engage with them, and then finally influence them and to do something. For example, if it's a car site, you would probably have them download a brochure, for example, and then finally take a test drive, and then finally move them into buying that particular car. But that doesn't exist today, actually. So this is a funnel that was traditionally there, but if you think about it, it doesn't exist, because today you might be thinking about anything, and then in the next second you're actually probably buying it. So the funnels are collapsed. So in that, when you think from that angle, you're thinking a lot more holistically. So that's what we're talking about here. What it also does, in my mind, is actually does three things. It helps people change behavior, right? That's the thing that we want people to do. So, for example, the digital, just the photography, right? What was a niche skill? Certainly, the digital photography and the services associated with it made a lot of us as photographers. Now, every other guy has photography as his hobby, right? So, which is amazing. I mean, it's a good thing, but so it allows us to see that in a different light. So what these guys have done here, just a second. Not able to play the video here. Okay, cool. Anyway, so in that video, there is an example of how today, conservation of water in the state of California. There is an emergency that was declared in California because of lack of water resources, etc. And then how people created this thing called the Water Watcher. It's a sensor that they created, and what you could do is keep it in areas that you want to. Just be, so the most consumption of water happens in the sinks, in bathrooms, and stuff like that. So you can just keep that out there. What it does, it connects with your iPhone, and then every day it updates you on how much of water is being consumed in the house. You're not aware of it, actually. You're probably consuming a lot more, and only when you know how much is being consumed is when you can take an action on it, and therefore change your behavior to. So it was attacking where it matters the most, and that was the example out there. Now, if you look at this as well, again, from a looking at the holistic point of view, as I was saying, products as services. Now, this is not for a company such as a Make My Trip, for example. You would probably look at this and think about it like that, but no, this is not for Make My Trip. This is an airline company. Now, what airline company is doing is thinking about travel, enabler of overall travel, not just the airline itself. So, if you notice, I'll also share an example of how a hospitality company is actually thinking about travel as well. Now, you're broadening the horizon, and you are playing at a lot bigger level. So this is again the airline example. They're done a lot of research. This is a client as well. So we've done a lot of research on how people travel, what are the motivations, and what are the things that come in the way extra. The second thing that's amazing to see is bridging the gap. If you think about it, so the bridging the gap is happening at every single level, be it healthcare, be it political. So voice of the people. Now people's voice, and you have so many demonstrations and the movement against corruption, and you can think about 1,000 things that are happening today, and they're all happening because there is this power of connection that's happening, and at one point in time, you can gather, hundreds of people, millions of people to just, create a movement. So there is a bridging of the gap between, people who earlier you were like-minded, but you had no way to reach out to people. And even in terms of medical, there is a lot of revolutionary stuff happening. You could actually, if you think about it and think futuristically, you could have a person in a country like, say, Africa, for example, and sitting there operating on somebody while using the technology that probably advanced nations have, like the US, because you could connect them both, and the power of 3D printing and live stuff that happens today, you could actually do that today, right? So you could bridge the gap between where the resources are not accessible versus where they're accessible as well. So this is an example of how
now in Seoul with a
how
look
that's
at a
happening
new
here.
type
It's an
of
example in
retail
Korea.
experience
You can
that's
see
taking
how,
the city by storm.
More than
They're trying to
15
do that.
million South Koreans now use smartphones. To capitalize on the trend, a new type of store aimed at mobile-mad consumers has emerged. An average of 200,000 people use Seoul Solon subway station every day. Photos on panels on the edge of platforms attract people's attention. They look like ads, but in fact they're virtual stores. Last month, the world's first virtual store opened at Seoul's Solon station. The store sells a wide range of everyday necessities, such as meat, milk, and tissue paper. But the store doesn't actually stock the products. All it has is life-size photos of the products and barcodes or QR codes. After activating an application on their smartphones, customers take photos of the barcodes or QR codes of the product they want, make their payment, and specify when and where they want the products to be delivered. If they place their orders before 1 p.m., they can take delivery of their purchases the same day.
So anyway, the idea here is to share the fact that virtual stores, we know of Home Plus, etc. That's making a big deal out in Korea, and it's become a habit for people as well, and it's really bridging the gap between people buying stuff and they're using their commute time, etc. in Korea for this. This is a picture of a band in Russia. Now this band plays only their music through iPads and iPhones, so it's a complete band, and again, bridging the gap between people who probably were aspiring musicians and making them musicians. And finally, the world is getting better because of this. That's what is the best part of this. So let's see a small example of how that's happening. This is my favorite example.
I'm James Murphy. I am a musician who lives in New York. I used to be in a band called LCD Sound System, which played its last show in New York at Madison Square Garden 3 years ago almost. I'm a DJ and record producer and man about town. It's kind of a tough city and it's an expensive city, but the subways is sort of like very, very egalitarian, purist New York thing, runs all night. So I have a kind of a love affair. It's like the best of New York, I think, the subway. I started noticing that the subway sounds quite brutal. There's a missing opportunity at the turnstile. At the moment, there's this kind of unpleasant beep. I said, given that all that information is already in the turnstile, why don't we just make it a nice sound? Just make it pleasant. Recently, when I read that the subway system is going to move to a tap and ride rather than a swipe, that I thought, this is my chance, really. I want to be part of the installation of the subway, inherent, so it doesn't cost any money. So it's just, there's already going to be a thing that makes a sound. Why can't it make the sound, the nice sound? The more I thought about it, I was like, what? It's an opportunity for music. Why not make the worst times in subways the best times? So the more people going through, the more times the turnstile gets turned. If you have different notes that are all in agreement, it would make music. It's just an opportunity to have something quite beautiful in a place where something beautiful seems impossible or unlikely.
Such a powerful concept of just, think about it, right? We live in this world, and can we make this, everything around us, slightly little better? Overall, the whole world is going to be better. So that's the concept of this, and pretty powerful because I thought, it's right there, and I don't think anybody has thought about it except this guy. And then he's, probably going to change the way other people think about it. So he's also working right now with IBM, and then, making music with tennis data, and there's a live streams happening again. Amazingly innovative stuff that they're doing, and that's the future that we're looking at. The third, question that going further that we ask ourselves is, can we change our frame of thinking to unlock the value of experience? We spoke about experiences, which are great, but can we unlock the value? So what is the value that we get? And this concept comes from our philosophy of storyscaping, where what we believe in is, so there are three things, right? So there is a story, there is a value, and there is an experience that happens. And then when those three concepts come together, you actually create something that's groundbreaking. So that's the concept that we are looking at. And let's examine that in a little more detail. Can we really do something about it? And again, share you a few examples of how they've done. So before that, I think it's imperative for us to understand what is experience in the first place, what exactly it is. Experience is probably very easy to feel, very difficult to say, very difficult to explain, but there is an attempt out here. Experience is the dialogue that everybody is at any point in time having with the world around him. Now, it is the dialogue, and when we talk about people, we're talking about people with emotions. We're talking, they're not users who are performing a task only. That's also there, but they also have emotions. There are some things that are running in their mind all the time. They're thinking about, there is a cognition aspect to people as well. And the world around them has a context. There is a place, there is a certain thing that is out there. And this is what experience actually is. And the interface that we create as designers is the dialogue, actually. That's the one that we are enabling for people. So we are shaping their experiences. We may actually, to be very honest, we probably don't create experiences, we shape their experiences in the way we want to. We can convert any experience into a positive experience. Also, what it does is, when you think from an experience point of view, what it does for us is, it forces you to think from a context. It forces you to understand people pretty deeply. It's not enough to just know people, like the traditional research that we do, but you need to know them much more deeply than ever before. So that's what it forces you to do. The way that going further, basically two things are happening in any experience. There are interactions that happen. For example, you walk into a store, you are interacting with the salesperson out there, you're interacting with the devices out there, you're playing around with it, you're interacting with probably your phone at that point in time, you're interacting with their website as well, you're probably reviewing the products that are right in front of you. So you're interacting at several levels, but you're also going in with a perception. So when, if I ask you this question, what do you think of Big Bazaar, for example? What comes to your mind when I say Big Bazaar? Grocery, okay. Sorry? Discounts, value, okay. So that's a perception we already have of Big Bazaar, right? So when you walk into Big Bazaar, you're thinking about it all this. Suddenly, if Big Bazaar becomes premium tomorrow, now they are going to be seriously, at risk. So when you go with that perception and when you interact, the experience reinforces that perception, or it can also have a negative effect, right? It can be positive or negative. So these two things actually come together for us to create an experience, and it's going to be either better or not, based on how the experience has been. So that's what we are talking about when we say experience. We're talking about interactions, we are talking about perceptions, etc. And today, the whole world is looking at how we can create better experiences, including this place called the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Las Vegas. It's a hotel lobby, but you can see the way that they are thinking about experience and how this is, adding value to them as a hospitality company.